Hello everybody and welcome to Lesbian Talk episode 51. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently this week because I will be traveling to Northern Ireland, so we really didn't have time to record an episode. Now, that's the bad news. But the good news is we're going to be spending a few days in London and rollicking around Northern Ireland, so you'll probably get a new episode next week with both of us actually in the same room for once talking about our adventures and how we probably screwed everything up and stuff like that. So this week we're bringing you another best of. These are selections to episodes you might not have heard. These are from before you were on That Guy with the Glasses. So if you're a long-time listener, then these will be familiar to you. If you're a new listener, then probably not so much. So sit back and enjoy Lesbian Talk episode 51. Kind of like a Chinese buffet of some of our favorite bits from past episodes. So we'll see you next week. So that was that. Our word from last week, or last time, was cross-legged. To sit cross-legged.
Yeah, that's what you call it in the UK. But apparently they call it something else in the ultra-racist colonies.
Okay, now I don't know if this is the entirety of the US, but where I grew up, sitting cross-legged was sitting Indian style. Now I don't know if they meant American Indian or, from India Indian.
They meant Native American.
Yeah, that's probably how it is.
I remember seeing all of the stereotypical versions of Native Americans from even up until the 1990s, they always had Native Americans sitting like that.
See, I would just think that would be a natural way to sit. Like, that implies that Europeans never sat cross-legged ever until they came to the New World.
Yeah, it's as well as racist, it's really ridiculous.
Well, that's what we were taught when you were kids. Okay, everybody sit down Indian style, we're going to have story time.
So it's a little bit like, to my effete socialist European ways.
Oh, here we go.
It's a little bit like, in America you've got the stereotype that, black people eat a lot of fried chicken. And this stereotype...
I don't know where that comes from, because everyone eats a lot of fried chicken, because it's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to point out that, the idea of one group has a stereotype of eating fried chicken is inherently a little bit ludicrous to me, because fried chicken is great. Why are black people singled out for liking fried chicken? I
don't know. I think maybe it's a southern thing. Because there's also the thing about watermelon, but first of all, watermelon is nasty.
I love watermelon.
No. When I was little, when I was 5, me and my friend Hope Bacon ate an entire watermelon in the course of an afternoon, and I felt sick for 3 days. So I can never eat watermelon ever again, or I will throw up copious amounts.
What was her surname?
Bacon.
Bacon as in the pig?
Yeah.
What an odd surname.
She's my best friend.
I'm not complaining, I'm just thinking she had an odd surname.
Well, there's Kevin Bacon.
He has an odd surname too.
Psh, she was cool.
Plus, Kevin Bacon was in R.I.P.D.
Yeah. But, so I think, there's the watermelon thing, but I also think that must be a southern thing. I don't know.
Probably.
America, if you write the show.
America, to my effete outside ways, the South does seem to have a disproportionate amount of the racism in America.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Cue angry letters from Southerners. And I know, of course, it's different for you. We're not saying you personally, a Southerner, are racist. Just, we're just saying. That's all.
There seems to be slightly more of it there.
If you would like to complain, please contact me.
At least the very showy, obvious type of racism. I'm very sure there's a bunch of racism under the surface that neither of us pick up on because we're white.
That's true. Although I was just thinking it'd be really funny if, Lewis actually does get an email from somebody complaining about lesbian talk and be like, I'm not a lesbian. I don't know why you sent this to me.
No, well, not yet.
That's true, because if we do the secret awesome thing we're thinking about doing at MagFest, he may be an honorary lesbian for the night. We'll see. And no, it's not sexual. Stop that, all of you.
Well, yeah, if I would be happy to have Lewis on the show. I was just liking to suggest that Lewis was going to have alterations and become a lesbian later on. I thought that would be pretty
See,
nice.
I was thinking the innocent way, I guess that would be nice to have him on the show. Yeah, we should probably, see what he wants. But you're like, major body alterations. You, too, can become a lesbian. But, I guess it was, going back to, the Indian style, I guess it was a thing because when you're little, when you're first in school, that's one of the things they first teach you because once you get kids calmed down from the summer, it's kind of, nearly November anyway, and then you go into the Thanksgiving unit, and you're like, Pilgrims and the Indians sat Indian style. Do you want to be an Indian too? You can. And then you, have a little play.
How did the Pilgrims sit?
Probably on chairs.
Oh, so the Pilgrims got chairs and the Indians didn't. Oh, see, that's racist again.
Well, because the Pilgrims brought chairs with them.
And they're not gonna let the people who were hosting them
their
country?
Because everybody sat down at the table. That was the point. But before the Pilgrims came, I don't know if the Indians made chairs. They might have. You should research that.
They probably did. At least some type of chair.
Like chairs made of probably stretched animal leather, because that could be a pretty good seat. If you know, write the show.
I think you just described some type of hammock.
No, because I've seen so a director's chair?
Mm-hmm.
You know how it's canvas stretched out? Well, you can do that with the animal skin.
Oh, in a frame, okay.
Yeah. I know what a hammock is. She always assumes that I'm an idiot. That's just basically how most of the show goes. You're being an idiot. Actually, I'm not. But, you guys, you don't have Thanksgiving, so you don't really have a cultural reference point for that, do you?
Nope, not at all. When I was younger, the school I went to, primary school, which is like an elementary school, it used to have a harvest festival, but that was it. Just at the time of year when harvest would happen. It wasn't rural at all. I'm not sure why they had a harvest festival.
Do you guys harvest anything in Derry?
I'm not really sure why they had it. Maybe because it was... See, in Northern Ireland, you get two main types of school at that point. You have the government-run schools, which are primarily with Protestants inside it, and then you've got the Catholic schools, which are run by the Catholic Church, but the government gave them money, I think, and that was almost always Catholic. I went to my first school I went to, because I was not raised Catholic or Protestant, I went to the government one because it was just the government school, although by default most of the people who go to them are Protestants, so they are considered Protestant schools. So I got the feeling that they were trying to possibly do some sort of a festival or some sort of an event which cannot possibly be grabbed onto by one of the communities or the other as an excuse for more sectarianism, because Northern Ireland was full of that shit.
That's true.
It's a bit like how when Northern Ireland, whenever they were trying to revitalize Northern Ireland in the 90s,
mm-hmm.
they brought a new sports team over and they decided to deliberately create an ice hockey team because football, the big sport in Northern Ireland, is so politicized because one side likes these teams, this other side likes the other teams, and they fight over it, and the people die over it. And
Jesus,
creating an ice hockey team was neutral.
You guys have no ice though.
No, they have an interior ring.
Oh, okay.
And I suppose they could have made a cricket club or something, but that itself was politicized because the cricket is seen as rightly or wrongly as very English, and the English are seen as the British side, so the Irish side would get pissed off at that, so they tried to create something neutral, and I think that's possibly what my school was trying to do.
Your life is complicated. I'm just telling you.
Not so complicated once you get your hang of it.
That's true. But you had exposure to Thanksgiving through TV, right?
Yeah, because American media is everywhere because y'all are like ancient Rome.
Yeah. I mean nothing. So did you think, wow, Americans just are really thankful people?
No, I created my sorts of ideas about Thanksgiving, which got me in trouble with your parents.
What? When did this happen? I forget.
Well, you remember, I felt it was deeply inappropriate to celebrate the event, which, because this was basically the precursor to the Americans, to the colonists, through deliberate means and through not deliberate means, genociding the fuck out of the Native Americans, and I felt it was deeply not nice to celebrate that event as though it was a good thing.
Oh, pshaw.
So, even if I was over in America, I don't think I would be very fond of Thanksgiving.
Well, if I end up over in the UK, you better believe, if I don't go home for Thanksgiving, I will be making Thanksgiving dinner. And you will have to eat it, so...
Thanksgiving dinner seems to be roughly the same as the British Christmas dinner, but with extra sweet potatoes, so I will happily have one. I will just... I'm not entirely a big fan of the holiday.
Well, it's okay. It's not like... Okay, so at Easter and Christmas, because it's religious, you're like, geez, remember when Jesus was born? Remember when he died? That was a thing, And Veterans Day, you're like, remember the veterans. But Thanksgiving, unless you're in grade school, you're not really remembering the Pilgrims and the Indians, quite honestly. Everybody gets together to, like, watch the football game and eat food, and everyone's supposed to go around the table and say what they're thankful for, and some families do, some don't. It's about appreciating what you have, which is kind of weird considering American culture, but you know.
Well, I'm just thinking that a lot of the things you've just said about Thanksgiving, you could use that as a defense of celebrating Easter, because Easter, you're not thinking about Jesus rising again, you're thinking about chocolate bunnies.
Well, if you're a religious family, you are. But, I mean, a regular family, yeah, will be thinking about bunnies.
And Easter itself is named after...
And ham. Also ham.
After Oyster, I think, or Auster, or whatever you call it. I think she was some sort of fertility goddess or something in Celtic times. It's, although at one point, we're going to have to get into England at some point during, like, Easter sort of time. I really want to watch a Maypole live with you.
Oh, I've heard about that. And I've seen it in music videos.
Where in case you're wondering, the Maypole is a traditional English folk thing where you have people dancing around a big pole with ribbons, and it's the pole symbolizes the phallus.
It's a penis. It's a big penis.
Yep, and it's a fertility symbol, and it happened in The Wicker Man, and my memory the original Wicker Man, and if I'm not wrong in my memory, they were naked while they were doing it.
I participated in a Maypole thing, although I was not naked at the time. This was many, many years ago when I played in one of the most kick-ass Changeling the Dreaming LARPs ever, just saying. And the Beltane game was being held at the farm of two of our players who were married. And they had a horse farm in New Jersey. And so we had they set up a whole big Maypole. It was really great. And my friend got so drunk he puked all over their porch. Amen.
Tisk.
Well, yeah. I didn't get drunk.
But you know who never talked about Maypoles?
My dad.
Well, apart from him. H.P. Lovecraft.
He might have. You don't know that.
Actually, he probably did at some point. I'm just using that as a really bad segue. Let's talk about Lovecraft.
Yay! Let's lead into something that, for once, I suggested a movie that we talk about. And
it was
this is
terrible. Never let her do that.
Shut up. No. This was a movie that I saw on Netflix years ago that I added to my instant queue and promptly never watched. Then one night I was like, I should probably watch this. It's been on my instant queue for like 4 years. And I watched it, and then I said, you know what, we should talk about this in Lesbian Talk. Will you watch it? And the hypothesis that I'm coming into the movie with, and if you've seen Session 9, or if you haven't, I mean, obviously spoilers, so there you go.
Yes, skip the next 15 minutes if you don't want spoilers.
Or, just watch it right now. Like, pause the podcast, go watch it, and come back.
Go, we'll wait.
So anyway.
Someone's watching it, honey, we can't.
They paused us. In their universe, we're paused.
Okay.
Okay, so my thesis on Session 9 is that Session 9 would have been an infinitely more scary horror movie if they ditched the supernatural element of the plot.
I thought maybe we should explain to the audience exactly what's going on in Session 9.
I know, but I wanted to freeze that to you first, which would lead into our discussion.
Okay. Session 9, it's Danvers Mental Institution, and you got a bunch of guys are, like, renovating it, and, shit goes down that may or may not be various things.
It's got a pretty obvious twist that's obvious, like, the second you realize, like, oh, it's a twist. But part of it is, so these workmen have underbid to strip all the asbestos and all the, the harmful lead piping and crap out of this old asylum building, so I guess the county can use it for something else. And the leader of this crew underbid. He totally underbid. He said, yeah, we can get the job, just give us the contract, I really need the contract. So he underbid on it to get the contract, and he kind of doesn't have enough manpower to actually get the job done in a week. And it's the main character is a Scottish actor, but I couldn't tell if he was meant to be putting on a Scottish accent or they made him put on an Irish accent.
Oh no, that's a Glaswegian accent. He was using an actual Scottish accent.
Okay, that's cool. But so so there are people in it that look like other famous people. It actually was filmed at that asylum because the director used to drive by it every day and it gave him the idea. And the reason it's called Session 9 is one of the workers is fucking off and not doing his work. And he finds some old case studies and some recordings of, clinical sessions and stuff like that, which technically it's a violation of HIPAA, the Health Information Accountability and Portability Act, that they're left lying around, but whatever. And so he listens to all these sessions. And it's with this girl who, this woman who has multiple personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder. And obviously some horrible thing had happened, and the therapist is trying to get out of her what happened and talking to different personalities. So that's like a separate framing device. While the guy that's running this crew, the members of his crew are fighting. One's his nephew that can't do anything right. It's just, stuff's breaking down, and eventually shit gets real, and they end up dead. But they kind of play it out to make you think that the main character, he's having issues with his wife, he's a new father and stuff. Everyone makes this big deal about, is he okay? A new father and everything. But early on you realize that he's murdered his wife and child. You realize that. So along the time, you pretty much guess the twist. But then you're kind of made to be led to believe that he did this because he was exposed to some supernatural entity it's never really clear. Like, he goes into a dark room and then he hears some whispering, and it's the same kind of whispering that's on the tape. And it kind of makes it seem as though he's been possessed by some remnant of whatever it was in the girl with multiple personalities that made her kill someone. It was just... the way it was framed was pretty claustrophobic. Because, they talk about how if you even get a bit of asbestos in your lungs, you'll die of mesothelioma, and how kind of stressful and frightening that is. And there's one guy the young kid is terribly, terribly afraid of the dark. So there's a scene where he ends up in the bowels of the asylum, and the generator fails, because they're running everything off a generator. And that's pretty frightening, him getting out of there. But I think if they just try to ditch the supernaturalness of it, the plot itself was pretty scary.
It reminded me of the I forgot his name, George Clark movie that I did an interview for, The Last Light. But that was one guy by himself, and it was even less subtle about what was going on. Because it was like, just ghosts be everywhere, roar!
Oh, and it had, what's his face, David Caruso in it.
It really confused me, because David Caruso, Ian Glenn was apparently the main character, but then also David Caruso was always there, and I was like, are you sure he's not the main character? He's the guy from, CSI.
Well, spoilers, until he dies at the end, I was convinced that he was the bad guy, he was the murderer.
Well, it's David Caruso, we can only hope.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I did prefer the original version where they had, aliens involved. It was called Session 9 from Outer Space.
Would you stop that? No, but what do you think of my hypothesis? That if they had just been like this guy always was losing it, he had lost it, he accidentally killed his wife and baby, and that's the guilt of it was eating away at him until he kind of, totally slipped and then just slaughtered the rest of his team.
It sounds solid. It sounds very, very solid. It's the film. I find it difficult to talk about a massive amounts of it. It's the sort of thing that if I was doing a review of, I could do a short review of, but I would really be sort of pushed to find lots of interesting things to say about. It's very, very competently made. Nice to see subtlety and horror.
Very atmospheric.
Yeah, it is nice of them to not spell out exactly what's going on. Even if it's supernatural, they're not entirely sure what the nature of the supernatural thing is.
Well, I think they should have worked out that part altogether, but still used the guy listening to her sessions as kind of like a framing device, as I don't think this is a word, but like a parallelity to what the guy was going through. Because she killed for some unknown reason, that was known only to her. She snapped and killed her brother, and he snapped and killed his wife and child. And reason is never, and at the end they cop out, they're like, oh, I killed him because I love to kill and I love blood, says this other random dark personality. But they could have written that part out and just had it been a kind of parallel to him slowly losing it.
Yeah. It was...
Shut up, I'm clever. I came up with a clever theory. You're always one with a clever film theory, so there.
Well, I'm not saying that I'm not saying you're wrong. Having it, being not at all supernatural may well have been much more effective.
Yeah, I think that, and that's a lot of why I don't like to watch horror movies, because so few of them are actually frightening. You have oh no, blood, oh no, special effects, here's a liver, there you go. And it's just so over the top that it's funny. Or you have stuff that attempts to be scary, oh no, it's Dracula, it's totally scary. And it's not scary at all. It's just, you try too hard and it comes out stupid. I like conceptual horror, where you're whoa, think about that, yeah, that's fucking scary.
With horror is a unique genre because it's got so many subcategories to it, which are completely different from each other. Which
then you have that kind of horror like blood, someone's naked, look at her tits, the end.
Yeah, there's no other genre that has so many subcategories that are so opposed to each other in it, because you've got the stuff that's actually out to frighten you, which if done competently is very, 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 very good. Then you got the comedy horror type stuff, which is not actually supposed to scare you. It's actually should be a subcategory of comedy, really. Then you've got the stuff which is gore just for gore's sake, and which is perfectly valid. If people say that gore for gore's sake is bad in some way, then I will take exception to that. But these things are all very different. And,
well, it's just why I can't claim to be an actual horror fan, because so little of what I actually see is horrifying to me.
Well, maybe I can suggest you some of the conceptually horrifying films. Like
The Orphanage, El Orfanato? Jesus and Christ. I slept with the light on for a week.
Well, there's quite a lot of films like that out there. You just gotta, but with any genre, that sort of stuff is harder to find. And when it comes to being a film obsessive, you can either be, you can either take your, you can either be really into the type of film that you like, which in your case, when it comes to horror is only the conceptual stuff, or you can sort of bite the bullet and develop an appreciation for the stuff that's not so good, which is what I do.
Yeah, but I value writing because, I'm a writer. Even though I'm not going to discuss intricacies of plot, because I still want to end up doing this, I came up with a horror novel that, you could pull off to be pretty horrifying with a perfectly rational scientific explanation at the end. Because I think that'd be pretty cool, because you're oh no, it must have been a demon, or ghosts, or the devil, or oh, wow, that is a pretty good rational scientific explanation for it. Huh, yeah, it sucks that all those people died before we figured that out.
Yeah, I'd love to see more stuff like that.
Is there a thing for that, rationalist horror?
No, there's a couple of films, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but they do exist.
Well, good.
It's just because supernatural is, unfortunately, much more interesting to look at.
But it can be done so much better. I don't know, maybe I'm just being an elitist. I don't even like to read bad horror. And if I'm this is stupid, then I won't want to read it. I mean, that's why people like Stephen King are so great, because his short stories, some of them aren't very long, but they're, you stop and think about that, you're holy fuck. Yeah, that's horrible. It's a good thing that'll never happen to me, right? That one story that's in Nightmares and Dreamscapes, where that many jointed finger, that with all the fingers and they all have 6 joints on them, this hand comes out of this guy's sink drain, and it only ever does it when he's in the bathroom, and he starts to think he's going insane, but he's terrified of it. That's horrifying. Anyway, that's what I have to say. So, honey, what did you want to talk about for the second half of the show?
I think for the second half of the show, we need to talk about the fact that, for reasons which is best explained by the fact that we want to see animals a lot, we went to see 3 zoos in 3 states within the space of a week.
We did. This is very true.
And you live tweeted our visits.
A lot of them, yeah. Because one of the great things about... one of the good and bad things about zoos is they're usually full of kids. So you're trying to look, and there's all these kids look at the otter! And then they're in the way, and then you're grr, because you can't make them move because they're children and precious. But another good thing about kids is they say the most amazing shit. And you're how did you...
Plus you get some stupid adults, too.
This is true. We were looking at some kind... I think there was some kind of the higher primates. It might have been chimps of some kind. And one little kid goes, how many eggs does it lay? And I tweeted that. And Nash responded, okay, I want a monkey omelet.
And there was other ones saying, are cats dinosaurs or something like that? Or is a horse a type of cat or something?
Yeah, like, no, it was a little kid.
There was like some
Are
really just
zebras
random shit
cats?
said by adults. And
Oh
hello?
no, with the giraffe, it was an adult who said, I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that was a dinosaur. He didn't say that to us, obviously, but
Yeah. And occasionally with the zoos, especially in America, you get the occasional creationist, and it's like, oh, that would be charming if that wasn't so pathetic.
although I liked the one that we overheard in the Philly Zoo in one of the snake houses where we were just sitting because it was ungodly. Of course, we had to go on the day it was like 95 degrees with full humidity. But so
Fuck
we're
yeah.
resting in the snake house, looking at a snake, and there's these two teen girls, and one goes, "Oh, a milk snake! My milk snake brings all the boys to the yard," and I tweet that too.
Well, we the three zoos we went to, in order of chronology, were Baltimore, Brandywine, and the Philly Zoo. So
Philly Zoo.
now, which of these three did you find the most noteworthy?
Well, I love the Philly Zoo because I would always go there, and it's also the oldest zoo in America. Noteworthy, I would have to give it to the Brandywine Zoo in Delaware, or as we came to rechristen it, the National Depression Zoo. Because it was a sad place. Animals were sad, we were sad, everybody was sad. And then, about a week after we went there, and there was torrential downpours all across Delaware and massive flooding, and a huge tree fell over on the monkey house, but everybody was safe, and so were all the monkeys.
Yeah,
So I bet now they're even more depressed.
Yeah, the Delaware Zoo, it's a very Victorian style zoo, and it was opened about 100 years ago, so it was one of the early zoos in America, but it's not really been expanded or built upon since then.
So you could do it in about a half hour.
Yeah, it's very small. It's like $7 worth of zoo. And it's
Which is about what you pay, so.
Yeah, it's about maybe 1/10 the size of like Baltimore Zoo. And it starts off really impressively. You're walking down and there's this massive cage with a fucking condor which opens up its wings and be like, "Yo, motherfuckers, check out my wingspan."
Yeah, he
All right.
seriously was all about front. Like, when people came over, he started, like, flapping and, like, literally, like, strutting around with his wings open, like, I'm photographic, I'm photogenic, pictures
Check
now.
me out, bitches. And then, like, beside it, you had, like, nearby you had the tiger and the different types of cats and stuff. But then you further in, you got the sparser, the enclosures got the smaller they
Like,
got.
there was one cage that could have been called Birds of the Area with, like, 3 different kinds of ducks and, like, a ruffed grouse and a porcupine.
Yeah, they just got sadder and sadder. And then at one point you had, like, a Reyes and...
One looked dead. Oh my god. I'll put the picture up for this part, but we thought it was dead, but it was just sleeping.
Yeah, there were Reyes and the llamas, and then you had a capybara by itself, and a small child was like, "Oh my god, look at the size of that rat!" And the biggest, and most advertised thing in the Brandywine Zoo was the otters, and their enclosure was all painted brightly and like, "Come and see the fucking otters! We have fucking otters!"
Their water looked stagnant, though.
Yeah, you could look at them from above and you could see stuff, but they weren't doing very much, and there was only 2 of them. But from the side where you're supposed to look into the water, it's one of those types of, perspex enclosures, you couldn't see a foot in front of you.
The water was all cloudy and full of, like, leaves and everything. And there was this one toucan that had something wrong with his foot, so it was, like, on a branch near the ground. It was hobbling. And there was, like, a regular old Delaware turtle that had snuck into the enclosure somehow. I was kind of chilling out with it. We were like, National Depression Zoo.
Like, the people who work there...
They were nice. They were very nice.
Yeah, they're nice and they're dedicated. They obviously love the zoo, but they don't have anything like enough space or funding to make it a better
Yeah, and
place.
you have to go into the gift shop to buy the tickets. Otherwise, you could basically just walk in. It's kind of like on the honor system.
Yeah, we easily could have walked in, but we also saw they had a separate house for the monkeys, which seemed to have been a house that was just built nearby, and they took over later on. It was outside their grounds.
Yeah, that's the one that the tree fell on.
Yeah, hopefully none of the monkeys escaped.
Although we did go to Huatulteca
Jumanji.
on the way home.
It could be like, Jumanji, if the monkeys had escaped.
That's true. They would be all rollicking around Brandywine Park.
But the other 2 went to Baltimore and Philly. Now, Baltimore was bigger than Philly, Baltimore was a better zoo than Brandywine. And I got me a monkey plushie.
You did. And what did you name him, pray tell?
Lord Baltimore.
Wah, wah, wah.
But the problem with the Baltimore Zoo, absolutely everyone was really, really hot. Like, the poor polar bears.
Oh god, the polar bears had flies all over them. They're just saying like, oh fuck me. And one wasn't even in the water. It was just like sitting against like the like in the shade, just being like this like look on his face like, oh Jesus. And the really ironic thing is, at the top of the exhibit, they have like one of the polar rovers that had been donated, and it's air conditioned inside. It has like a little movie theater showing you all about this one town that lives really close to polar bears, and they're all right with it. And I thought it was kind of ironic that we were sitting in the air conditioning watching these poor polar bears who were so hot outside in the sweltering Baltimore summer.
Yeah, the polar bears are like, bastards, please just fucking shave us, please.
They were so sad. The ones at the Philly Zoo, they were a lot happier, though. They were splashing and...
Yeah, the Philly Zoo, well, it was a bit further north, so it was not quite as insane heat-wise. Honestly, the two zoos are sort of vaguely sort of melding in my mind because, we went so close together. Like, I remember Baltimore Zoo obviously had the little buggy to get you into the zoo, and it had various other things, while the Philly Zoo had, like, the badass giant otters and everything.
Well, the Philly Zoo used to have a monorail way back in the day, because I remember riding on it when I was a little kid, but apparently there was a fire and there was a derailment back in the early 90s. And they discontinued it. But what they did was the monorail track is still around, and so what they did is they made it kind of like this skyway. They had a fenced-in tunnel on it that some of the larger apes and primates can go clambering around on this little like treetop way, which is kind of cool. A good repurposing of the monorail track.
Yeah, very, very clever. Although I'd hate to be a small child happily looking up enchanted at the monkeys, crawling around that and gets shat on.
Well, that's one of the things that happens.
Just the moment they're opening their mouth in wonderment. It's like, oh, my mouth tastes like poo.
Also, they have a little teeny lake in the middle, and which is kind of around the birdhouse, and they have these beautiful swan paddle boats that you can hire out for like $6, and you can take a few turns around the lake. And so my lovely wife says to me, "Oh, do you want to go on the paddle boats?" And it's real. I'm telling you, it's like 100% humidity. It's like 95, 96 degrees that day in Philly. And I said, "Really? You want to?" And she goes, "Oh, well, not if you don't want to, I guess." And I'm like, I should stop being such a hard ass. So I was like, "No, honey, if you want to go on it, we'll go on it." And so we paid the money we got, put into life vests, and we sit down in the swan paddle boat. And describe your side, if you would.
Well, I did most of the paddling. I don't think there was any point where I wasn't paddling, and it was rather warm.
Well, your paddle area was full up with water, so you couldn't even put your feet down.
Yeah, so I sort of had to climb in rather.
Because see, I knew this would be a tragedy, so we get in.
And my choice of shoes were not waterproof.
Oh yeah, that's right, because you had the other ones on. So we're paddling around the stagnant lake. It's about 1,000,000 fucking degrees. We get about I think maybe 10, 15 yards away from the dock, and she says, "This might not have been the best idea." And I said, "Uh-huh." Well, I'm paddling, and I was like, "My chest hurts." "Okay, you stop paddling for now. I'll paddle." Okay. We made it 2 times around the thing, and then we just kind of collapsed for a while.
Well, you know why I wanted to go on them?
Because you thought somehow it would be different.
No, because when I was a child, I used to, whenever I was in the area, I would go to a not a very good, but a rather charming little theme park called Lightwater Valley. And one of my earliest memories of going to a theme park was there, and they had like swan paddle boats, and I wanted to go on them with you.
Aww.
Because it reminded me of that.
Oh, we almost died together. Oh.
But you see, it wasn't just a case of wanting to make us sort of feel bad or anything. It was I wanted to connect with a happy childhood memory.
Oh, I know, honey. I just think that sometimes you don't take into account American weather.
This is true. Though you're going to be really weirded out in the UK whenever you're finally here during the summer, because it's moderate / maybe a tiny bit cold during the summer, except when you're in direct sunlight. Once you're in direct sunlight, then it's like almost Philadelphia level summer weather.
That's strange to me.
Yeah, you can be cold and warm within like moments of each other outside in UK summer weather. Just depending. But you can also get this in winter. It could be. I have had experiences where I wander around and it's like frosty and like there's been snow or whatever, but you get hit with it with some, in a direct bit of sunlight and you feel warm.
That's because you guys are crazy.
No, it's just
it's proximity to Vikings is what it is.
But yeah, I like the Philly Zoo.
And there were legions of birds walking. Now I knew this from when I was a kid. Is that there are peacocks that walk around and yelp at you for food, and they have a very loud yelp. But there's also Canadian geese, which are horrible, and ducks. And we took a great bit of footage on my iPhone, which apparently I have to take it in for service because now it won't record with sound. It will play with sound, but it won't record with sound. So I had at one point in time a whole bunch of duck minions gathered, and I was pretending like I was telling them a story of my people. And then
you told them an epic tale.
I did. And then I gave one a bit of my lunch, and it bit me.
And they were all cannibals because we gave them like barbecue chicken.
We did, but they were just they were. I mean, the ducks are okay, but the geese are horrible because they'll hiss at you, and geese are bad news.
Yeah, we deliberately did not give the geese food. We were all like, no, geese, you can fuck off. We give it to the ducks.
We give it to cute ducks. So there. They were babies.
Because ducks are awesome.
Yeah, I spent the entire day convinced I was going to have a heart attack from the heat. I was like, we have to sit down. My chest hurts.
And then at the end, I was like, oh, let's go, because you said we get ice cream. Let's go and get ice cream at this place where we can sit down. And it was cunningly located on the other side of the park. But right afterwards, we could go and see the otters.
Yeah, I like otters. They're fun. I want to have a pet otter. I keep it in the bathtub.
I think it might need more space than that.
Well, it would be a big bathtub. You guys don't even know. It's gonna be like Wild fucking Kingdom at our apartment or house or whatever where we live in Manchester, because we'll have Kippers the cat, if we can finagle getting him over the pet immigration way. Possibly another kitten, an octopus. I said if we ever get a dog, we should get a Swedish Valhund because they're like the Viking herder dogs. They're not derived from anything. They're like an original breed, and they look like wolf corgis. Seriously, Google them. Google them and search.
Seriously. Well, if I have a dog, I'd like a spaniel.
Yeah, but that's work. You have to, brush them all the damn time.
Yeah, but they look awesome.
Yeah, but, that's why royals keep them, because they have time for that.
Well, the queen keeps corgis.
Yeah, the queen has corgis, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Well, see, there you go. And also, this has just happened, but again, by the time you hear this, it'll be old news. You have a new potential king.
Well, not potential king, unless he dies before his grandparents or whatever, or his parents, and unless they get rid of the Royal family, we have a future definite king.
Okay, I wasn't really sure how that worked.
Basically, Queen dies, Charles takes over. Charles dies, William takes over. William dies, new kid takes over.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So now we have the next 3 monarchs are lined up.
Dun dun dun. So someday, eventually, I will be a subject of this guy, if that whole immigration thing works out.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, he's the king now. I remember when he was born. Just saying. I will say to nobody.
Yeah, I'm thinking that unless, barring accidents, I'm probably going to die during that king's reign.
Why do you think like that? Why do you think of these things?
I'm just working out the numbers.
Yeah, but who thinks like that but you?
I figure, I suppose it's possible I might die of old age during William's reign, but I think it's a little bit unlikely.
My wife, everybody.
But the zoos, I really enjoyed Philly, and not quite as much Baltimore, but that might be because it was really, really, really fucking hot.
Yeah, it was detestably hot that day.
It is really interesting seeing all the zoos in different countries and states in America. I've been to one in Phuket, I've been to the one in New Orleans, and it's really because apart from those ones, the only ones I've been to are based in the UK, and the UK ones they have very similar ideas to each other about what constitutes interesting and foreign. So there's a lot of overlap. But with these ones, they're so different.
Yeah, that's true. Didn't you say that was like they had a pine cone in Phuket?
Phuket had a glass case full of pine cones inside the aquarium.
The rare aquatic pine.
They also had like lynx cats inside the aquarium, and in one part, not in the aquarium, they had like little white bunnies and crows.
I'm at a loss for that one.
Well, the Phuket Zoo was awesome.
Although I have been in a lot of Alleluia, praise the Lord kind of situations. Usually not of my own intent. It's always one of those, how do I get myself into these situations kind of things.
Like what?
Like, all right, so I think I talked about it once on the stream, on the podcast before, that when I was in high school, I ended up in a Catholic youth group because I figured that Catholic kids would be nice to me and accept me because their God said they had to. That went poorly for me. But so I ended up going to this youth conference, which was, and it's kind of ironic now, in a sad kind of way. It was at the Franciscan University of Steubenville, which is in Steubenville, Ohio, the small town famous for its per capita rape.
Holy shit! I had no idea that you'd been over there before.
Yeah, I've been twice. The first year we went, it was kind of fun because our youth leader was like young and awesome, and the only people that went were me and a bunch of these really tough girls from one of the Italian Catholic schools in the city who were like tough and awesome, and they were really cool. I liked them a lot. But then the second year I went, like the first year we'd been in dorm rooms, which was really nice, but it was bigger the second year, and so we just kind of had this huge tent, and in the tent you got a space equal to the size of your sleeping bag. So you basically got as much room as you would have gotten on like, you know, a Royal Navy era sailing ship. Like if you were on a man of war, that's how much space you would have gotten. And it was horrible because the air was like 75% mosquitoes, and all I wanted to do was go back home and LARP, and it was horrible. And it was like they did this thing and where they put the host in this big sunbursty thing, and they kind of carried it around, and everybody fell down and was chanting and crying, and it was really kind of scary, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then you'll get a kick out of this. So we had to go to there were like the boy sessions that they went to, and there were the girl session that we went to. And the girl sessions were all about how guys will tell you lies to get you in bed, and why you should not get in bed with guys, you should not get pregnant. These are all very, very, very bad ideas. And this one girl, whose name I will not mention, because I don't know if she listens to the show. I haven't seen her in years, but you never know.
Plus, she may well work for a large chain bookstore.
Huh? I don't think so. But she got really annoyed with me because I wouldn't sign my chastity card. And she's like, no, you have to sign it because then you could just get in bed with some guy and get pregnant. And there's this little bit in the back of my head thinking, honey, I don't think that's that big of a problem with me. I don't exactly think I'm in danger of getting talked up by a guy.
Now, was that because were you being self-deprecating, or was this because of the lesbian?
No, this was because of the lesbian, totally. That was kind of around the point where I figured, yeah, don't think I'll ever be sleeping with guys, yeah. And so she, but this was pretty ironic because she come to talk about ended up getting pregnant by a friend of mine's brother, and out of wedlock. And her mother said, all right, well, I'll forgive you, and I'll help you raise, the child. Because her parents were very, very, very Catholic. But you have to dump him. And she wouldn't. And so her mom's like, fine, and threw her out. And unfortunately, she didn't end up losing the baby. But I found her on Facebook several years ago, and apparently she has a young son. She's still with the same guy, and they're married, so it did work out well for her in the end. But she wanted us to go to confession. It was like 1:00,000 at night, and I just wanted to go to bed to breathe in mosquitoes so I could wake up the next morning, we could go home, and I could go home and LARP like I wanted to. So I just wanted the night to be over with. It was like midnight. This whole like crying and screaming and wailing in tongues had been going on, and I was exhausted. I just wanted to go to bed. And she's like, we should go to confession, and I was like, oh, let's. It's like if someone says, you want to go out for pizza? Yeah, we go out for pizza. And someone says, no, let's drill ourselves in the eyeball. Oh, just let's.
So this wasn't...
depends what you drill yourself with.
I guess, but, like, I know that you know a lot about Catholicism through movies, but, like, at St. John's, which was the church that I went to, it was the confession boxes. So you could go in, and you could tell the priest by their voice. So, like, you could, like, modify your voice if you wanted to get away with it. You know, so if it was, like, you know, the Monsignor who was old and doddering and didn't really care, but like, Father, I totally lied and did all this shit. You know, whatever. But if it was, there was Father Ephraim, who was this young, like, Filipino priest who was, like, all hip and with it and everything. He'd be like, forgive me, Father, for I've sinned. I did some sinning things and totally isn't me. Okay, bye. But this wasn't like that. This was a tent. This was the reconciliation tent. And I had to go in there, and so you just had to sit with the priest, which was even worse. And I was annoyed, and it was horrible, and they had citronella candles in there, but they weren't doing shit about the mosquitoes. So I was sitting there, and I was tired and frustrated and angry that I had to be there, and I was slapping mosquitoes like every 5 seconds. And the priest that I got looked exactly like Santa Claus, but he had a very thick Irish accent. And he goes, okay, so why don't you tell me about your sins now? And I lost it. And this is only the second time in my life I'd trolled a priest in confession, but I just lost it. And I said, oh, forgive me, Father, I lied to my parents 3 times this week, and I didn't do my homework, and I said that I did to my teacher. And also, I think I'm falling in love with a friend of mine who's teaching me how to do witchcraft, and I'm getting really good at it. Which technically was true, because I was falling in love with my best friend at the time, who was a neo-pagan and was teaching me how to do witchcraft. And he was shocked. Like, I think, you know, he just wasn't expecting that. So he kind of, like, blinked, and he said, well, you know, that's, any power that you think you have, it's not really power. It's power from the devil. So, I know that you love your friend, and it's good to love your friends, but you should just keep it like sisters. So, why don't you go say 10 Hail Marys and an Our Father, okay? All right. God go with you. And I was like, all right, Father, thank you. And I felt bad. I felt really bad for trolling him. But I lost it. Like, sometimes you get to that point, you just lose it. Hallelujah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I remember a time I met with the leader of the Baha'i Faith, one of the leaders, and
leader of the whole world, or just in your squadron?
No, one of the leader, one of them.
Like the Pope?
There's 9 of them,
and
I met one of them, yes.
Oh.
And they're like a council.
Oh.
And I was asked what my name was, and just for no reason I can work out, I decided to lie about what my name was. And I did.
What did you say?
I can't remember what name I used, but I just lied about what my name was, and it just went on. It was entirely pointless.
No, it's okay. I do that sometimes. Like, I don't know why, but I have a real hard time lying to people, like, that I know, you know. But I have no problem lying to strangers.
I did something similar with, I met the Dalai Lama, and I did the exact same thing. So I think I have
not meet the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Yeah, when I was young.
Why didn't you tell me this?
It was years ago.
But...
And I lied to them. I can't remember, I think it was like about it was something really, really stupid, like the weather or something, but I lied to them.
Dalai Lama probably wouldn't mind you if you lied.
I apparently have this thing, if I meet world leaders, I have to lie to them.
That's a really, really, really interesting Fey ban, then. I could just imagine that, like, meeting the Dalai Lama and not asking, like, what do you think is the secret to happiness? Or how do you think that I can find peace? It's like, I'm going to lie about the weather.
Well, yeah. Wouldn't you?
No. I lie about stupid stuff. Like, I lie to get myself out of situations. Like, I have, quote-unquote, my brother. Now, I don't have a brother. I have a sister. But people in retail situations don't know that. Like, I went into the store that looked like it had all these cool smart toys in the mall. But I took a real quick walk around, and it was like, you know, toddler toys. I was like, oh, there's not, like, awesome science toys for me. So I walked out. And the guy was like, well, that was a quick trip. And I didn't want to say, yeah, you don't have anything that interests me. So I was like, oh, well, this all looks like it's a little bit, you know, older for the person I'm shopping for. And he's like, well, how old are they? I'm like, oh, well, my niece is only, like, you know, 6 weeks. And he's like, oh, we have toys for blah, 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 and things and stuff. Because I didn't want to make him feel bad about his store. So he brought me over to all the little teeny baby things. He's like, well, there's this and there's this. And so then I just had to keep it going. I was like, Yeah, I mean, my brother, I'll ask him about it. My sister-in-law, she's kind of like, oh, well, only developmentally appropriate, and I'll take some pictures and text them. And I did. I took pictures and pretended to text them to my mom to extract myself from the situation. And my brother, my quote-unquote brother, has come in handy before because years ago, and I was up for a job, I had to go take a drug test. It was a pee test. And, of course, I'm as pure as the driven snow, but, you always want to make sure just in case, because I don't know,
I've seen some driven snow that wasn't very pure.
Well, like they say with antibiotics and stuff, and I've been real sick that summer, and I've been on amoxicillin, so I knew that they sold over-the-counter drug tests, the same kind that they have, the pee test for. So, they had them at Rite Aid, and I needed detergent anyway. So I went to Rite Aid, and there was these two old ladies that were working there. And I said to the one, I said, you carry drug tests, right? And the woman says, yeah, we do. Back this way. And so she's like, well, this one is for just marijuana, but this one is for marijuana and cocaine, and she listed all these other ones off. And I'm like, oh, I think I just need one. She goes, oh, okay. And she wasn't judging me. Her voice was fine. I could have just bought the product and moved on, but of course I had to open up my big fat mouth. And I said, yeah, my brother, And she's like, oh, what happened? And I'm like, well, my mom caught him smoking again. My dad said if they caught him smoking again, they're going to send him to military school. And so my mom, she's got him and the stuff that he was smoking. And, she sent me out, to buy a test and everything and stuff like that. And he's a good kid, but I think he's got a chance at college, but he's just got to get his head on straight, And she's like, oh, yeah, I understand. And so I browsed around for a while, and I got some Tide detergent, and they had the little mini Hershey cups. They were on sale. So I bought it.
You are constantly world building.
I don't know why I did it. And then so I went to pay, and so she rang me up, and she's like, oh, God bless, I hope everything goes well with your brother. I'm like, thank you, that means a lot, thank you. And I don't know why I did this. But I did.
Because you're obsessively world building.
But I'm not a liar, though. Like I have
you're a world builder.
Trouble lying to, my mom would always be like, did you do a thing? No. Look me in the eye and say that. I totally did it.
Now, I'm a very good liar. My younger brother, who of course plays Teddy in my reviews, he's one of the few people who has a decent ratio of working out when I'm lying. Because whenever I lie, I tend to lie about things that are insane. But I also tend to, say true things which are insane. So it makes it really hard.
I can never tell with you.
Yeah, I'm very good at holding a straight face when explaining, weird shit, regardless of whether it's true or not.
So that just makes, I can just imagine you be like, it's totally a thing. I'm like, I'm calling Colin. You're like, all right, it's totally not a thing. Sorry.
Well, he has a decent record, not 100%.
You're like an enigma wrapped in a euphemism.
That's a very good way of putting it.
That's just you in a bundle. Wow, so we went from praising the Lord to trolling priests to lying to strangers.
Sometimes world leaders. Well, that's very necessary.
We're getting all religious. We're gonna have ourselves a rapture. Although, today I bought a box of Twinkies at Wegmans. Oh my god, I have to tell you about this. So for those of you out there who don't know, Hagen's brother plays Teddy the Minion.
Yep.
And when I was visiting last month, he asked me if I could either mail or have Czar send back some Twinkies. Because he said he's always wanted to try them, and there's apparently a place you can buy import American treats. And every time he goes there, for some reason they don't have Twinkies, and he's just really, really curious. And so I figured, because I was at the supermarket today buying stuff, I was like, well, I might as well just buy the box today. I'll be going in less than 30 days anyway, so they'll still be fresh. And so...
Oh, honey, Twinkies are never fresh.
Okay, well, they won't be well, they are discarded, but they won't be expired. Let's just put it that way.
And, just for everyone who wants to mention the myth, Twinkies do have an expiry date. They're not made of plastic. It's an urban legend.
But so, I was at Wegmans, which I feel so terrible, because Wegmans is really great stuff, but yuppies shop there. Yuppies and hipsters, and it's terrible. So...
Yupsters!
They are, really. It's like an unholy combination. So, I went there because there was some stuff that I need. And so, I'm standing there and I have all my stuff on the cart, and I'm gonna make. My plan is to make a whole bunch of Japanese curry with udon noodles and put it in little thingies and freeze them so I can easily microwave them, because now that I'm closing at the store, I get home at around like 10:30, 11. Nothing's open, as to pick food up, and I don't really feel like cooking. So I thought this will be great. I can make curry, I can make some other kind of stuff. Just put them in the freezer in the little freezer seal ones, and then I can have them. So I'll go out and I'll get some chicken and stuff like that. So I'm buying like organic, udon noodles, and I'm buying, the carrots and potatoes, and I bought a package of instant bird's custard. Just add water.
Oh.
And
is this the one that you tried and failed to make beforehand?
No, that was the actual powder from the tin. This is Bird's, but it's a sachet of instant. You just add boiling water to.
Okay, hopefully that will work out pretty well.
Yeah, well, it'll be an experiment. So yeah, I'm buying that. I bought like Advil. I bought sourdough rolls, and
she's practicing to be British. It's adorable.
I am, but so I'm buying like all this not organic stuff, but like world food and healthy stuff. The little Belvita oat bran breakfast biscuits that are really good for you are on sale, so I bought some of them. But then in the middle of that, I have a huge box of Hostess Twinkies. And the woman in front of me was buying all this organic vegetables, and so she just looked back in disdain at the stuff. I'm like, I want to see, look, organic potatoes. So I would have.
Were you wanting the okay of the Yupsters?
I just felt like she was making a value judgment on my health based on the fact that I was buying Twinkie.
Do you value her opinion?
No, but I'm just, I wanted to be like, those aren't for me to eat, because, if I'm going to eat a snack cake, it's going to be Little Debbie. Quite honestly, it's not going to be Hostess, because Hostess tastes funny. I've always thought that ever since I was in kindergarten.
Well, I'm just thinking that if you...
she was judging me. Organic Arugula was judging me.
I'm just thinking, if you truly don't give a shit about those people, if you have as much disdain for them as you claim to, then their opinion really shouldn't matter.
Because there's having disdain when you have your own podcast here in the safety of the room you're recording in. And there's having disdain when you're right there in public.
The lady doth protest too much.
Listen, I'm just telling you what.
You're protesting too much.
It's my podcast. I can protest as much as I want.
It's my podcast. I can protest if I want to.
Exactly. Well, because, see, alright, if you've never been to a Wegmans before, Google it, but they have really great stuff. Okay, they do have stuff for sensitive people.
They tend to not have Jaffa cakes, and that disappoints me.
No, but they had a whole bunch of different kinds. Well, they have Jaffa cakes at, you can get them at Giant. But they have digestive biscuits. I'm gonna go there and get them when we're gonna make 15s.
Yeah, we're going to make a Northern Irish confectionery called 15s whenever I move over again. Now, 15s are wonderful. They're made of things like digestive biscuits, which are not actually a Victorian constipation aid, although they might be. They've got glacier cherry, which I don't know what that is in American.
Just those red and green candy cherries that you sometimes see.
And
put them in. Basically, if you're making your own fruitcake, that's what they go in.
And desiccated coconut and a bunch of and condensed milk and all these things, which are all named, which are quite a lot of them we discovered have different names in America, because you were all like, what the hell is this? I don't know what this is. And
I didn't know what desiccated coconut was. I was like, can we just buy shredded coconut and toast it? Can we just do that? Because I've come to understand that desiccated coconut, it's like that, but it's granules, and I do not know where I can find that in the United States of America.
Well, the stuff that you called shredded coconut was pretty much the same thing.
So yeah, I think this year I want to toast it. I think that'll make it distinctive flavored.
Well, you can give it a go.
And marshmallows are involved. It's a really great no-bake dessert, quite honestly.
Yeah, you just sort of break everything up, cut everything up, mash it together, and then you sort of squish it together with your hands and turn it into a sausage, put it into a refrigerator, and then about a few hours later, you cut it up into slices.
It's very sweet, though. It is very, very sweet.
Yeah, all the Americans were like, oh my god, my body is only built to handle things like corn syrup. What is this white, granulated stuff that's going through my system? Blarg.
Nobody said that. She's making that up. That's not a direct quote of my family's.
Yeah, but Sid loved it.
Yeah, Sid, my cousin's husband, he's from Mumbai. But see, the reason he loves it probably is because he's used to be a